Today's podcast is sponsored by Healthycell. Reach your potential. Get 20% off your first order with code Carter, that's CARTER, at healthycell.com/Carter. Healthycell. It makes me feel great. Today we've got Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs on the show with us. He is not only a great representative and has fought diligently for our country, specifically when we think of our border issues, but he is a good friend. And I am grateful to have him on the show today. He'll join me. He's going to be discussing that stunning leak from the SCOTUS, from the Supreme Court, of the draft opinions regarding the overturning of Roe versus Wade and Casey. This is so important because I'm actually here covering the story in Virginia right now. That's why I'm here at the beautiful studios here in Radio America in Arlington. I'm not in Texas. I'm not on the border, but I will talk to you about what I experienced in Judge Alito's neighborhood with the group of protesters, about 100 roughly protesters that marched through that neighborhood. And I got to tell you, it still is leaving me stunned. The things that I heard are, for me, I mean, really tore at my soul. I could not believe what I was hearing from the women that were there. The pro-abortion activists, that's what I'm going to call them, pro-abortion activists. This isn't about pro-choice. I didn't hear any relevant arguments. What I heard was actually, it made it seem as though the insane were running the asylum, and I felt devastated to hear some of the things I heard there. It was very disturbing. Later, I also have news on the show about UFOs, unidentified flying objects, or as they like to say it now, unidentified aerial phenomena. This is not something from the Twilight Zone, guys. This is reality. The Senate is holding hearings on this. There is a lot of concern. This is a bipartisan effort in the Senate to find out what is happening in our skies and what we cannot identify. There are objects in our skies that appeared to be moving at speeds that we could not possibly have here on Earth. There are issues associated with that Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, she's a Democrat from New York, and others here on the ground, Senator Marco Rubio, also on the House Intelligence Committee in Florida, are very interested in and want to investigate. So we're going to talk about that and so much more. Please follow and subscribe. I'd like you to get all the links at saracarter.com. That is saracarter.com. Okay, don't go to saracarter.com unless you want to buy some paintings. But you throw the A in there and you'll go to my website. We have all the latest stories, all of the links to all my social media, and you can also get on my email list once you're there. Once you sign up for the email list, you will not get shadow banned. I promise you that we'll be able to stay in touch no matter what happens. Obviously, we have a lot of faith right now on Twitter with Elon Musk, and he's been making some pretty important statements and some great statements, but I think we still have to be very cautious about what's happening. This is an election year, and there can be many significant changes. And we're going to be talking about that with the congressman as well. Remember, Congressman Andy Biggs is coming up on the show. You do not want to miss him. You do not want to miss him. We're going to be talking about everything and the things that are most important to you. SCOTUS decision, overturning Roe versus Wade, the border, and everything else. Before I get to Congressman Biggs, I want to talk to you about a sponsor for our show that I absolutely believe in, a group that I believe fights for freedom, fights for our country, fights for the basic principles that make us so great. And that's AMAC. That's AMAC, guys, the Association of Mature American Citizens. And by the way, you don't need to be 50 plus to join AMAC. AMAC will fight the good fight for you. They take it right here to Capitol Hill, into the swamp, and they battle it out. And they go to Capitol Hill, they talk to congressional members, and I'm going to tell you, it's a company that an organization I absolutely believe in. They believe in fighting the good fight against reckless government spending, the ever-expanding scope of the federal government, helping small businesses, securing our borders. I mean, this is everything we talk about all the time anyways. Supporting our military and respecting our veterans. They believe in standing before the flag and then kneeling before God. By joining AMAC, you're taking the first steps to saving the America you love. AMAC offers an alternative to just about every other benefit that other group offers. But guess what, guys? Without the liberal agenda. I stand with AMAC, and I hope that you will too. I encourage you to join today at amac.us/Carter. That's CARTER, AMAC.us/Carter. The benefits of membership are great, but the cause is even greater. Join amac.us/Carter. So I'm going to start with coming into Virginia to cover SCOTUS, the outrageous, unbelievable leaking of the draft opinions of our Supreme Court justices regarding Roe versus Wade, something that has never, ever been done in the history of the SCOTUS, right? This is like a trampling on the sacred ground of our country. We have, branches of government, and we respect those divisions and those lines. But obviously somebody, a clerk or someone within the SCOTUS, and we better find out who that is. But by the way, most of the time we never find out who leakers are, right? Remember what happened to President Trump when people were going through his phone calls and leaking those phone calls to the media? Remember what happened there? Nothing. They never caught the people that they should have caught. There's never punishment here in Washington, D.C. for some of these people that believe they are above the law. Some of these people who believe they know what's best for you and I, right? So they leak the draft opinions. By the way, I read Justice Alito's draft opinion a couple of times, actually, because it's so brilliant. Alito's draft opinion, 98 pages, I believe, just completely brilliant arguments. And even on my flight into Virginia from Texas, I believed that I should review it again because he lays out these incredible arguments of why this issue of abortion should go back to the states, because we are a republic. We are a republic. And Roe versus Wade was based on faulty assumptions, and he lays it out. He lays it out. Abortion was not a historical right in this country. It wasn't something that we had embedded in our Constitution. It's something that should be left up to the states. So if you're thinking you only know about Roe versus Wade is being overturned, we're going to lose our ability to have an abortion, for those of you that believe in that, that's not the case. What the justices are saying is that they cannot legislate the law. It should have never happened from the beginning. That every individual state and its constituents in those states, its residents, have the right to dictate how the state handles that. And that was based on a case in Mississippi that was brought before the Supreme Court, where in Mississippi, it was 15 weeks or later, no abortion. And this is the reason why, and here are the facts as we have laid them out. And if you want to just keep an open mind, read Justice Alito's argument. It's out there. It's leaked. We already know it. What we don't know is the final drafts. Those have not been issued. Those have not yet been issued by the courts. We do know that Alito, Kavanaugh, Barrett, all of them are now probably in hiding somewhere. And I've spoken to a couple of sources who have said, yes, they have left their homes. They're in undisclosed locations, and that, they are very, very concerned for the safety of themselves and their families. So I came here last night on a very last minute flight, went straight from the airport, straight over to Justice Alito's neighborhood. Apparently he was not home, nor his family, but a group of maybe about 100 plus people came marching down the streets. And it was mostly women. There were men there. And I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Regardless of how any of us feel about the issue of abortion and the complex nature of that argument, right? When you hear people say, well, what if it's a 12-year-old girl? What if it's a 10-year-old girl? What if it's somebody who's been raped by a family member? What if it's this? What if it's that? What if it's the life of the mom? Regardless of the argument, it is a human life. And I've always believed, and I I consider myself a very spiritual person, somebody who prays quite often, goes to church as much as I can, but absolutely believes there is a God. But even if I didn't, it's a human life. That shouldn't be easy. That shouldn't be something you smile or laugh about. That shouldn't be something that you joke around about. That is a child, a potential life that exists that could have the opportunity to experience all the most wonderful things that we get to experience, even in moments where it's sad, right? Even when life isn't perfect, and it shouldn't be. We experience it. We experience this great miracle of life. So you would think, like, no matter what, we should do that, right? I heard women say things like they wish they had been aborted. Women saying things that, joking around about it, saying they're going to have a celebration for the next person's abortion, telling people, don't forget, don't miss your appointment at the abortion clinic. It's going to be awesome. And we're going to throw you a party. I just felt like the crazies were running the institutions. I felt like I was surrounded by people who had no love left in them, or very little. And people that were so extreme, so destroyed by something that they had turned into this kind of like chaos of evil. I don't even understand what was going on there. It was very, very disturbing to me. Very disturbing to me. I'm going to play this clip. This is MSNBC panelist and comedian Lori Kilmartin. I couldn't even believe this when I heard this. She says she wants to have sex with whoever leaked the draft opinion and then abort the baby. Take a listen to this.
Here's my feeling about the leaker. I would like to find out who the leaker is so I could make sweet love to that person, because that person is a hero to me. Okay? And if the leaker, a lot of people are saying it could be a conservative. If the leaker is a Republican, and if I get pregnant during our lovemaking, I will joyfully abort our fetus and let them know.
I don't even know how that's even funny. That's disgusting. This person is sick. Kilmartin's twisted up in her mind. I don't know who raised her. I don't know what happened to her in her life that she would be so callous and so horrible. I really have to believe that these people just don't fear anything, that they don't even care. There's no moral boundaries for them. I want you to think about what's happening in our country when the insane are running the institutions. Just look at the White House. Look at President Biden. Look at this administration. Look at what's happening at our border. Look at the people that are coming out, agonizing that they might lose that opportunity to abort the next child. They don't even know the history of abortion. They don't even care. More minority children are aborted all the time. It's horrible. It's a nightmare. It is a nightmare. And she jokes around about this like it's some kind of like, oh, I would joyfully abort the child of a Republican. Wow. You talk about evil? That's evil, folks. I want you to listen to this clip, because one of the biggest issues right now is it is illegal, by the way, to march down in someone's neighborhood and, disturb the peace, and they should have been arrested. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing their job here, not even in Virginia. Well, the Fairfax Police Department was out there, but they let them do their thing. And then after like 10 to 15 minutes, the whole group of pro-abortion gals and guys marched back up the street with their bloody candles and their crazy outfits. And I don't even know what was going on there. And they marched back up and we followed them over to the grocery store. But they were in people's neighborhoods and the neighbors were watching and everybody was concerned. Everybody was worried. I mean, anything can happen. It only takes one person, one crazy person, right? I want you to listen to this. This is the Biden administration refusing to tell demonstrators to stay away from the homes of the justices. I want you to take a listen. Jen Psaki's responsible for this too.
So he doesn't care if they're protesting outside the Supreme Court or outside someone's private residence.
I don't have an official U.S. government position on where people protest. We want it, of course, to be peaceful. And certainly the president would want people's privacy to be respected. But I think we shouldn't lose the point here. The reason people are protesting is because women across the country are worried worried about their fundamental rights that have been law for 50 years, their rights to make choices about their own bodies and their own health care, are at risk.
Yeah, I'm sure all the fetuses and the children, the unborn children, are pretty scared too, Jen. They're pretty scared too. Some of them are women. Some of them are little girls or females. You know what? In other parts of the world where I've been, in China, when they had the one-child law, they would abort and kill the babies even after they were born because they didn't want to have they didn't want to have daughters because they felt that their sons would, be able to add more to the family than the daughter. So what about those? What about those children? Jen Psaki? What about the kids, in countries like India and stuff, or across the globe, in places where women have no rights? Right? We have to also consider the potential life, the life of the child. They don't have anyone advocating for them. Who's advocating for them? And it's like supposed to be a bad thing? Supposed to be a bad thing? That when someone stands up for the right of a child, what kind of twisted world do we live in? What kind of twisted world do we live in? And by the way, the White House is responsible for this because they're allowing people to march through. And by the way, our AGs, our attorney generals that aren't doing anything about it here, or the police arresting people that are disturbing the peace in neighborhoods. Look, there is a time and a place for everything. And you don't need to be in someone's neighborhood threatening our Supreme Court justices for doing their jobs. And the majority of people that were there protesting, I guarantee you, never read one of the opinions. They are brainwashed by these crazy professors in these institutions that have turned our country upside down into Marxist kind of socialist ideology that our young children have basically adopted and integrated into their lives. I couldn't even believe some of the young girls that I saw. They're standing there with like these environmental shirts that were like, save the earth by aborting our children, by aborting humanity. It's insane, guys. It's insane. And I'm going to be here all week covering that story. I know we have Congressman Biggs coming up very shortly. And I'm going to bring him on. I'm going to ask him all of these questions. I do want to touch base with something that is also very important to me, and I haven't talked about it in a long time, and that's Afghanistan. And I was just on the phone this week with my interpreter, my former interpreter, who I was able to get out of Afghanistan with his child and his wife. And, we were talking about what's happening in the country and the rest of his family that's there. And it's just devastating. I mean, Biden also completely destroyed any gains we potentially could have had there. And by the way, we lost our lily pad there. We lost our ability to kind of observe and watch what China and the rest of our enemies are doing because we gave up all of the territory of Afghanistan. We didn't even hold on to Bagram. And you guys remember what that happened. Well, right now with Taliban rule, the women are going back to the nightmare that they lived before. They're being forced to wear their, full burqas. I actually have a burqa I brought from Afghanistan. It weighs a ton, and it's like you're living in a cage. It's the most horrific thing ever. Great job, President Biden. You're amazing. You're just throwing the world back into the Stone Age, literally throwing it. I mean, we're on the verge of World War III. We see what's happening in Ukraine. Look at what's happening with Russia. Our nation is just completely divided and falling apart. You're allowing the crazies to run the institution and run our streets. And by the way, I want all of you out there who are listening to me, do not allow the left to gaslight you. Just look at the reality of what is happening. Stick with that. Don't listen to their crazy words. Don't listen to Jen Psaki. Nobody's running away and seizing power in America. The Supreme Court is giving the right of abortion back up to the states if that's what's going to happen based on these draft opinions. Going back to the individual states, the left is literally trying to gaslight our country into total and utter destruction. Just look at what's happening at the border. The border is not safe, as Mayorkas is saying. He can say it till the cows come home. That border is wide open. Our country is more divided than it's ever been. There is inflation. We're going into a recession. Our economy is broken. And if we don't stop it, oh God only knows what can happen. And now in Afghanistan, we're seeing what's happening to the women, and we're seeing what's happening across the world. This is not a safer place. This is not a safer place. Before I get to Congressman Andy Biggs, I know he's waiting there to join me. I want to talk to you about Healthycell. Now, you see, I'm bouncing all over the country, right? I am like all over the place. And the only way I stay healthy is by keeping up with my vitamins, doing my daily exercise. But Healthycell has made it just so much easier for me, guys. Healthycell is the next generation in dietary supplements, by far the best. If you take regular supplements in pill form now, you're going to want to get rid of those. You're going to want to make a change. You're going to want to go to Healthycell. Why? Because studies show that you don't absorb most of the nutrients when you take them in pill form. But when you take them in a gel form, it's absolutely incredible. You have 165% more absorption when you take it in gel than you do with the pills. It is absolutely incredible. I tried it and I ditched the pills. I ditched them. And like I tell you, I feel 100 times better when I'm at the border, whether I'm here with the protesters, whether I'm down in DC and I spend a lot of time walking. I feel like $1 million with Healthycell. Journey to better health with Healthycell. Go to healthycell.com/Carter. That's healthycell.com/Carter and use promo code Carter for 20% off your first order. Again, that's healthycell.com/Carter, promo code Carter for 20% off your first order. First and foremost, thank you so much, Congressman Andy Biggs, for joining the Sara Carter Show. It's, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, but I feel like I feel like I'm living in upside down land. And I know you and I were both just talking about this. What's happening in our country, the protests, we're seeing these pro-abortion activists, our border, our national security is at risk. The way the White House is handling, I think, the most significant issues of our time by not handling them, just allowing it to all fall apart. Do you feel like we're living in a world that is completely an alterverse of where we were just a few years ago?
100%. I mean, so you see some of the protesters and you feel like you've stepped into the bar scene of Star Wars, for Pete's sakes.
Right.
You feel like you've walked down Diagon Alley in Harry Potter world or whatever. These people, they have no sense of reality. I mean, so here's the deal. I mean, the Democrats say, hey, well, we got inflation. We've devalued our currency. We've got inflation. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to print even more money and put more money there. They whatever they say is going to solve a problem is 100% going to exacerbate the problem. So I heard you talking earlier about Afghanistan. I've been watching this notion. We gave the Taliban $80 billion or so worth of material. And the Taliban basically is going back and they're taking modern implements of warfare and supply and logistics, and they're going to apply them to a medieval society that they're creating. I mean, this full body burqa that I've been watching in the news, I think, what in the world is happening there? What is going on anywhere? Whether it's North Korea lobbing ICBM after ICBM over Japan to see what Tokyo is going to do in response, and the South Korean president is for basically trying to reunify. This guy's a Marxist, and he wants to reunify with North Korea, the land that basically doesn't even have electricity. I mean, this is the idiocy that we see from Marxist left-wing authoritarians. And all by the way, all Marxist leftists are authoritarian. Doesn't matter whether they're selling apples in New York City or anything. They want to control you.
That's absolutely right. And I feel as though, there is this abuse taking place. And, everybody started using the word like gaslight before. Remember, it's gaslighting. But if you really read about gaslighting, I mean, it's abusive. And that's what the left is doing. They're just consistently lying to the public, consistently lying about what's happening around the world, and then acting like we're crazy if we question them. Like if we say, wait a minute, you're printing more money to take care of inflation? Like, that's crazy. It's like it's gonna we're going into a recession now. That's what everyone's seeing. And they're like, oh, no, you're just imagining that. You're just imagining this. Let us take care of this for you. Or watching the crazies, march down the street. I mean, I literally felt like we needed to get like therapists out there during the march, because some of the women there were, I can't even say it was suicidal. I was talking about it earlier in the monologue, Congressman. Some of the women marching in front of Justice Alito's house in their neighborhood, where neighbors are coming out, were saying that they wish that their mothers had aborted them, that they didn't want to live, that if abortion had been around, that they would have saved them the last 50-something years of their life. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And there is no way that I'm going to accept this as normal, because it is not.
It's not normal. It really isn't normal. And it's not mental illness. In my opinion, it's evil. And it's this, it's this embracing
good point. Very good point.
This godless society that the secular left has just basically indoctrinated generation. And actually, we're probably in the second or third generation of this kind of weird indoctrination that way. And I want you to think about what you were just saying, what these people were saying. When you hear that, you just go, wow, well, how could you get so far off base on the meaning of life, this meaning of trying to help each person fulfill the measure of creation that God gave them? It doesn't make sense to me. And it's everything, sir. So you talk about abortion, life issue, the economy. We've talked about foreign policy. We're so upside down crazy. What is the foreign policy for this administration? Is it just, we're voting today. They haven't even finished writing the bill as I'm talking to you. And in a couple hours, we're going to vote on $40 billion more to Ukraine. It's like, well, wait a second. 2 years ago, we said Ukraine's the most corrupt country in the world, and now we're going to give them $40 billion. Where's the $40 billion coming from? What's it going to do? And what is the end game, end goal? What is it? No one knows.
No one knows. No one knows. And it moves so fast that we can't even question it, that we don't even have time to think about it as taxpayers, as citizens. Like, where's this money going? How are we going to handle this? And you're absolutely right. Several years ago, all it was how corrupt Ukraine is. The most corrupt nation in the world, the most corrupt. And look, granted, Russia took action against Ukraine. It's not the Ukrainians in Russia. It's the Russians in Ukraine. I get that. You get that. We feel terrible for the people of Ukraine. I'm sure this is a horrific situation, but a situation that was brought about by an administration that basically gave the go-ahead to our enemies to do carte blanche, whatever they want around the world. That's our foreign policy. Our foreign policy is like, oh, hey, Russia, hey, China, you could pretty much do whatever you want because we're really not going to stop you. And I don't even know what this $40 billion is going to do when it reaches Ukraine. I'm in agreement with you. I don't even know what, we don't even understand how, we don't even have any checks and balances on that.
Yeah, no, there's no accountability. We don't have a pay for it. We don't say, well, we're going to pay for it by doing X and Y. We're giving them Stingers and Javelin missiles, not out of our surplus, but out of our stockpile. It takes almost 3 years to make a single missile like that. And so we're decreasing our readiness, supplying Ukraine, and at $1 million a copy, at least. And so you just go, well, what is the end game? We're dealing with people who would like to sit around an academic salon at a university and just gab about, multilateral institutionalism, neoliberal institutionalism, that's the way to do it. But the rest of the world's dictators, they think in the terms of realism. And the term of realism is power. It's all about power. And they say, well, hey, you know what? Hey, we just got to break. The crazy cowboy Donald Trump, he's not in charge anymore, so we can just you got this guy who's a lame-o from some Jerry Lewis movie, Joe Biden, who's wandering around. He's looking for an ice cream sandwich on the White House lawn. The Easter Bunny's his chief communications director, whatever. They can do what they want because we don't even project strength anymore.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Look, I was thinking about this when you were talking about Afghanistan, and it kind of slipped my mind, and it came back into my mind while you were talking here. The fact that I've been I spent a lot of time in Afghanistan, many, many years covering the war there. I would go into villages. I wasn't just with our U.S. military forces, which were amazing, amazing men and women in the region that some of them gave their full life. Others gave their eyes, like my husband, or an arm or a leg. They were fighting the fight there. But I would go into the villages and I would see mothers in those villages that would do anything and everything to save their child in the poorest place on earth with nothing. You would think with no hope, because they were being abused by Taliban leaders, not having enough rights, whatever you want to say. The women there, but there were women that loved their children so much that they would sacrifice their own life for their child, even in poverty. So when I hear these arguments coming from here, it blows my mind, because I've been to countries all over the world where mothers have walked across deserts to get their kids food. It's almost as if we're living in upside down land. And when you just talked about our national security and our foreign policy, and you see what's happening in China, you see what's happening in North Korea, you see what's happening in Japan and Taiwan, the world is literally upside down, and we have no leadership in this country. Nobody is facing the reality that in the next few years, things could be far worse for us here because what is happening over there. And it almost feels that the administration is moving it in that direction at full speed.
Yeah, you're so right on it. So I think there's so much that comes into what you're talking about. So we're looking at food security, and a lot of people say, "Oh, food security that's a family individual issue." It's actually going to be a U.S. issue because the price of fertilizer is going up, and we don't produce fertilizer in this country like we used to. We can't get it from Canada like we used to. This administration, they want to move you to green energy, right? So this energy vehicles, go buy, if you can't afford the gas, go buy an electric car, that type of thing. The reality is so different than that. What the reality is, you have people in charge who are actively working against the American people. They're actively working. Whether it's the border, you and I get down to the border a lot. We talk about a lot of border issues. Now, you go down to the border, this is an administration where the Homeland Security Secretary knows that he's letting murderers, rapists, child molesters go into the interior. He knows that's happening, but he's going to do nothing but open the doors even further, eliminate Title 42. Mayorkas wants to still eliminate Title 42. So you got that happening. At the same time, you can't even mine critical minerals that are necessary to build an electric vehicle out of American minerals. You have to bring them from China. Where are they getting them? China's taking some of them from Afghanistan. So
exactly.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. You're a lawyer. Tell me what goes through your mind when you see what's happening with the SCOTUS and that leak. We've never seen anything like that before, have we? We've never seen anything in the history of the SCOTUS like that.
The only time that you saw anything like that was on the first Roe v. Wade, where you remember People magazine, the opinion was supposed to be released. People magazine got a hold of it and released it, and for some reason there was a delay by a week. But that wasn't to the extent of what we've got today. What we have today is a malevolent actor in the Supreme Court who said they want to put pressure on, I'm speculating here, on these Supreme Court justices to change their opinion. We want to intimidate them to change the opinion, so we're going to release it. You basically taken the one institution that Americans, whether they agreed with the rulings or not, said they're at least more objective, more honest. And now you say you can't trust any institution in the United States government anymore. And that's where the long-term generational damage is going to happen right here. And I just can I comment on the
Absolutely.
Alito's opinion just in of itself? When I read the opinion that was leaked, and I'm looking at it, I'm saying all these people are saying, I'm hearing pro-lifers saying, well, great, hallelujah, Roe v. Wade's overturned, no more abortion, and you're hearing the baby killers saying, whoa, we'll never be able to have another abortion, and then it's going to be transgenders and interracial marriages and all this, all a bunch of lies. The reality is, all they did was they kicked it back to the states.
Exactly.
And that means that hopefully my state, Arizona, is gonna proscribe abortions. But next door, California is going to create an abortion travel tourism industry. That's what they're going to do. And do I think that's right? No, that's not what I would like to see. I'm a pro-life guy all the way. But that's the reality of what's happening here. And the left is taking it, and they don't have any issues to run on. Sarah, you and I know this.
Right.
So that's what this is all about.
Do you think someone may have leaked this just with the intention, and this is my belief too, of November coming up, creating a scandal, hoping that maybe the Democrats will have a shot in the dark with this one, because it is a complete lie. I've read the 98 pages of Alito. And by the way, I think Alito had brilliant arguments in his opinion. That draft opinion was probably one of the best things I've ever read, coming out of SCOTUS. I thought it was brilliant all the way through, and it was moving. It was really moving, and it did kick it back to the states. But do you think someone did this with the intention of trying to change the trajectory, not only of Roe versus Wade, but of the upcoming November midterms?
Absolutely. 100% agree with you. I mean, look at it. I mean, right now, you can go to suburban women who they abandoned Donald Trump because of mean tweets. And they're like, and actually I saw a poll on this morning. They're saying, look, yeah, I'm pro-choice, but so what? What I really care about is gas. I can't afford the gas. I can't afford the food. The inflation is killing us. And it gets back to something Bill Clinton, he was personally had his own set of values, but I mean, in reality, he had political intuition that was absolutely correct when he said back then, it's the economy stupid, and it still will be the economy stupid, because Roe v. Wade, this is, as people actually come to understand what this opinion's going to do and not going to do, they will say, well, it's a tempest in a teapot. Really, what I care about is the fact that I'm paying almost $5 or more per gallon of gas, and I'm paying 3 and 4 times the amount for groceries under Joe Biden than I did under Donald Trump.
We can't even get baby formula. We can't even get baby formula. My daughter was talking about it. It was weeks ago, my daughter's like, Mom, are you watching this? Like, I'm on Facebook and my friends cannot get baby formula. They can't feed, their babies. I mean, if they're giving them formula, they just can't get it. They're out of it at Walmart. They're out of it. We're really facing a crisis in this country. When you can't even get baby formula at the store, you're paying over $5 a gallon, and your groceries, like you say, Congressman, have tripled in some cases, in some places. I mean, this is pretty scary times. I don't know I don't know where we see the end to this. This is only year one.
Yeah. And so I'm curious to know where my Republican friends are going to be today, because what's going to exacerbate that is a $40 billion bill that we're going to vote on today, which hasn't been written yet. They wanted to put an additional $20 billion in for more COVID relief, of all things. This spending Lollapalooza that the Democrats have going, the fact that we killed mining, we killed the energy sector in America. We've basically, with some of our sanctions against Russia, have basically said, okay, we're not going to get fertilizer, so we're killing our ag industry. Ukraine supplied so much of the world's wheat. They were a breadbasket for the world. That's destroyed. I mentioned this is Noam Chomsky. You know who Noam Chomsky is. He's this radical communist lefty. Mm-hmm. Teaches part-time at University of Arizona. I had to put that in there because I guess about that quite a bit. But
he should be really proud of himself. He's pretty much part of the reason our nation is so upside down.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he would not take credit. Probably he'd blame somebody else, because that's what the left does. But what he said is there's only one senior statesman in America that is actually trying to resolve the Ukraine-Russian conflict. And that's Donald Trump, because Trump is saying we should move to peace. There will be nothing left in Ukraine for Russia to take over if they take over. There'll be nothing left in Ukraine for Ukrainians to go back to if we don't see a movement to peace.
Right.
And Ukraine is a critical component to feeding the world.
I mean, this is a black swan event in my opinion. We haven't seen the worst of it yet. We're at the very beginnings of something that could potentially be detrimental all over our planet. And and then I'm watching what's happened, and I hate to be an alarmist like this, but after seeing what happened yesterday, and I'm going to be covering the whole week, the stories here, I'm really worried. I want to get back really quick because I know we were talking about this beforehand, and I know you have ideas about what can actually happen here. I was down there. I thought it was against the law that you can't protest inside someone's neighborhood in the state of Virginia, that you could be arrested for doing that, for disturbing the peace under per se laws. Are these people ever going to face criminal penalties? Or could they, if they continue to harass these justices? Also federal law, trying to intimidate the justices. But what about the leaker? And if we go back to the SCOTUS ruling, what happens to the leaker? Are they going to really find out who it was? Are they going to face criminal penalties? What laws were broken here? I mean, what can we do?
Well, so with regard to the leaker, I was looking, and I haven't really found laws yet. It would have to be, in my opinion, we have to see what the contracts of these people say, the non-disclosures. There should be some non-disclosure contracts, in my opinion. That person their career should be jeopardized. They should never be allowed to ethically have a bar license anywhere in the country. I mean, that's just really the way it is. They violated that in such a degree. And also, if January 6th was an insurrection, this was an insurrection. And why was it? Because it was an attempt to change a legal process and an outcome of a legal process. I don't think it was insurrection, but I mean that's how crazy we've gotten, right?
Right. Mayor Lori Lightfoot of Chicago. She is basically saying, we got to fight. We got to take these people down. I mean, there's a lot of people on the left that are calling for violence against the Supreme Court justices.
Well, I mean, you remember Chuck Schumer a year ago said we're gonna remember this. We're gonna remember you when they decided to even take up the Roe v. Wade case.
Correct.
And so I find myself saying, well, okay, Chuck Schumer, what was that? That was a threat. What's her Pocahontas?
Elizabeth Warren.
I couldn't remember. Elizabeth Warren. I mean, Elizabeth Warren's having a meltdown of meltdowns. Klobuchar. I watched a conference she gave. These people have said so many outrageous things in an effort to intimidate justices. I don't know where. I mean, speech is limited. You can't threaten and intimidate.
But I guess they can if no one's holding them accountable, Congressman.
Right.
If we don't have a Department of Justice that does its job, if we don't have people in our states doing the job that they need to do, people with courage like you, if we don't have people that are going to stand up to the left and say, no more, the establishment Republicans are not going to do that. They are not doing that. So I don't know. I mean, look, I thought this was interesting, and I know I'm keeping you way beyond the time you said you were going to be able to have with me. I know you got to get back to work, but I think this is so important. A few weeks ago, Senator Sinema came under criticism, not for refusing to kill the filibuster or a piece of legislation, but because she considers you a friend. And I thought this was awesome because I know you pretty well, and you're probably one, in my opinion, one of the most trusted lawmakers, somebody who truly loves his constituents, fights for our nation, believes in telling the truth no matter what, getting out there and fighting the good fight, right? She said, I love Andy Biggs. She said this back at a fundraiser back in September. And she said, I know some people think he's crazy, which to me is crazy, but that's just because they don't know him. And she just... I love that. No, I love that because you guys are friends. You're all friends. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think the American public needs to hear this more and more, that it's okay if you belong to a different political party. Let's get back to where we were before as Americans, where we were debating policy issues that were good for our nation, not trying to destroy each other or our nation, but trying to build it and make it a better place for all of us to live. I don't want to see this anymore. You know, I'm so frustrated. I'm so grateful when I hear, you know, right now, both sides of the aisle defend one another. What do you have to say for that?
Well, I mean, I look back and I remember Tip O'Neill, who was Speaker of the House, very left, you know, old line Democrat, and Ronald Reagan. They used to, you know, Ronald Reagan, if you read one of his biographies, he says, oh, you know, I had Tip over to the White House for dinner. We sat around, we ate on TV trays. Reagan liked to eat on TV trays. They'd eat on TV trays. Tip O'Neill takes his shoes off. He's sitting there, and they have this great conversation. They're laughing and scratching and all that stuff. And then the next day, Tip O'Neill goes out and just beats the crud out of Ronald Reagan again. And Reagan calls him up and says, hey, what's the deal? And he says, well, hey, when I'm working, I'm going to beat the tar out of you, but we can get together after hours and have, you know, a good time. We can go for drinks. I mean, that's really kind of the way it is. That's the way it should be. It's not that way anymore. I mean, you know, after January 6, 2021, people I had been working on who co-sponsored my legislation, and then I, on the other side, and I co-sponsored their legislation after January 6th, these people wouldn't even talk to me. And I'm like, I did the same thing you did 4 years ago. You know, what is going on here? I'm afraid that it's just the chasm between both sides is so great now that it takes a little bit to break through. I mean, I broke through with one of my bills called the Prada bill, which is a Puerto Rican accountability bill for all the bailout money and transparency, right? You know, it got passed into law. I was the lead Republican. We had a Democrat on the other side. But we were able to do that. But, you know, right to try. We crossed the aisle. Kirsten Sinema and I, we were able to bridge the gap on that. But so much of this is so personal. I really don't try not to take any of this stuff personally. I figure people just hate me. That's okay. That's their prerogative to hate me. But you know what?
I don't know why that made me laugh. It's like it's true. Like, what are you gonna? You can't get people to change their mind, but you want to live in a time where at least people will listen to one another. You know, where at least we'll find a way, because we all have something to fight for. It's this country, and it's pretty amazing. And it's kind of heartbreaking to watch what's happening. There is one bill I last time I talked to you, we never got a chance. You said maybe one day you'll get to ask me, and it's about UFOs. And this is important. This is important. Members of the Senate Intelligence and Armed Services Committees, they received classified progress reports in recent weeks on a series of new data collection efforts that the Pentagon has on unidentified aerial phenomena. And the spy agencies are now required to pursue those investigations much more rigorously. I know that Senator Gillibrand, as well as Senator Marco Rubio and others, are working they're bipartisan in this effort. And why? Because they say that the phenomena, they don't know what it is an urgent national security issue. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, so I don't know if you saw this, that I want to say in a week or two, the House Intelligence Committee is going to they're going to have a subcommittee that has an open to the public hearing on this stuff that's coming out on UFOs. Of course, Adam Schiff is the chair of the Committee on Intelligence, which makes it immediately, in my mind, dubious. Isn't it kind of sad that in the United States Congress today, maybe one of the few things we can get together on is something strange, space phenomena like UFOs?
My God, what has happened to us?
Yeah, I mean, really, it is. I mean, I laugh at it, but it is kind of sad that, because I think all of us would say, "Oh yeah, let's find out what we'd like to know." And the question is it, you know, what does this mean? I mean, look, this goes back to things like the hollow Earth theory. You know, the old movies where you're shooting the comet that's coming to the Earth, and you get space lasers that shoot. I don't know. I'm very interested to find out what this is. Is there some big warehouse with the Ark of the Covenant sitting in it somewhere in a nondescript crate?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Exactly.
Where?
So, or the magnet guy from Area 51.
Well, I tell you this. What could what could make us all get along is if we saw a bunch of spaceships coming to this planet ready to target us. I think we would quickly change from being each other's enemies to probably being each other's, best allies. I think that may be a quick change. You don't think so?
Sarah, you're so optimistic. I see that I see that as being in the woods with a bunch of friends and a big old bear comes out, start chasing you. All of a sudden, everybody just wants to be faster than at least somebody else, at least one other person. And that may happen with your UFOs. I'm just saying, okay, all right. Just so long
Who's the fastest, right? Who's the fastest?
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad we ended this on a high note. Is there anything? Well, it is. It's a high. I mean, we're lucky. You know what? We just got to learn how to survive. That's it. I'm looking at the glasses half full, Congressman. I'm still looking at the glasses half full. I hope that we all find one day our Kirsten Cinema.
Yeah.
We're all looking for that. And I just, is there anything that I haven't asked you, because it's such we've talked about so many issues. Anything that you believe we need to be paying attention to, anything that you think as Americans we need to be really focused on in order to, I guess, get back to a place where we feel safe, proud, and proud to be a part of this great nation.
Well, I mean, I'm a big believer that just as in my own life, I have weak points and sins to repent of. This country needs to kind of turn back to God, I think, and if we do so, it was George Mason who said, God doesn't punish countries in the next world because he's gonna take care of individuals and whatnot, but he will punish countries in this world, in this life, who fail to be a good moral people. And I mean, John Adams is the one who said, that our country and our Constitution and our freedom was given to a moral and religious people. It's not, you can't have freedom in any other way. And so we need to struggle to see how we all fit into that milieu of needing to come back and love our neighbor as ourselves and love God too. And then we'll be better.
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's a lesson for all of us, and just taking some time to live in that light. You know what I mean? To be good to one another, to remember that, we're all neighbors and we're all on this planet together, and to respect one another. Gosh, from your mouth to God's ears, Congressman, thank you so much for being on this show.
Thanks, Sarah. It's always good to be with you. Always good.
You all know how much I love MyPillow. I talk about it. I have MyPillow for my dogs. I've got 4 dog beds in my house. They're all MyPillow. I have MyPillow sheets, MyPillow towel sets, MyPillow pillows. I love it. I love the fact that it's an American company. It's run by a great patriot, Mike Lindell, who I consider a friend. And I think you all too, you want to support American companies. This is why I have MyPillow as a sponsor for my show. Well, right now there is a BOGO extravaganza. I mean, it's huge. You're talking MyPillow bed sheets as low as $59.98, Elegance MyPillow as low as $49.98, Roll and Go Anywhere MyPillows for $29.98, and there is so much more, guys, so much more. Roll and Go Anywhere MyPillow. Use it on your couch, your recliner, in your car. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you what a cool product this is. It's versatile enough that you can take it with you on vacation anywhere you go. And I'm going to be taking it with me on our vacation coming up soon. Available in multiple colors and patterns. It's machine washable and dryable. You don't even have to worry about that. And it's got a 10-year warranty. You just can't beat that with a money-back guarantee. You'll have a 60-day money-back guarantee if you don't like it, okay? So it's a buy one, get one extravaganza at mypillow.com/Carter. You get bed sheets and pillows. They're just the tip of the iceberg. Find the full list of BOGO offers by visiting mypillow.com/Carter or call 1-800-685-7221. Stock up with the buy one, get one free savings today and get Mike's book. Listen to this, Mike's book free with any purchase. mypillow.com/Carter or call 1-800-685-7221. mypillow.com/Carter. Okay, so I did talk to Congressman Biggs a little bit about UFOs. It makes him a little uncomfortable. That's fine. Not everybody is comfortable discussing this subject. Why? Because it is something that we've never been allowed to discuss before. You know, I've had Lou Elizondo on the show many times. I've had Nick Pope on the show. All of these are familiar names with those of you who are familiar with unidentified aerial phenomena or UFOs. Nick Pope, who worked with the British government, he was the top guy for the British Defense Ministry's press and was very familiar with reporting sightings of UFOs, both on the military level as well as the civilian commercial aircraft. And Lou Elizondo, who I consider a great friend, a good friend, who worked at the Pentagon at their ATIP program. He was the director there studying UFOs. Well, it's a very big deal right now in the Senate as well as in the House. The information that has been released publicly just over the past few years, the videos of objects flying in the sky, literally moving 700 to 900 Gs. Just so you all understand this, the human body can only really withstand, I think it's about 7 to 9 Gs. So imagine an object moving 700 to 900 Gs. It appears here and then it appears there instantaneously, you know, right before the eyes of our fighter pilots in our military, which is what you heard at the top of this segment. It is absolutely stunning the kind of advancements our technology has allowed us to have that we can spot these unidentified aerial phenomena or UFOs in our skies. Now, does it mean that these are from aliens from another planet? No, we don't really understand what we're seeing here. We don't really understand. That's why the U.S. Senate has been receiving classified briefings from the intelligence community as well as the Pentagon over the past few weeks. Yeah, it's just happening right now. And the New York Times is reporting, and others are reporting, that the House subcommittee is actually scheduled to hold next week the first open congressional hearing on unidentified aerial vehicles in more than half a century. Although I'm going to tell you, I actually attended, and I don't understand how they're saying this, but there was testimony that was given under the Bush administration before Congress. So I'm going to have to look that up and talk to you guys about that, because I did cover that story. And I believe it was back in 2010 or 2009 here in Washington, D.C., when they were supposed to be releasing information disclosure. So we've got to be really careful, because there's a lot of people that want to keep whatever's going on in our skies a secret. I'm grateful that we're having this committee hearing. It's going to be very interesting to hear what comes out. This is from the New York Times. The hearing comes after a release last June of a report requested by Congress on unidentified aerial phenomena. The 9-page preliminary assessment, which I considered kind of bogus. I didn't think it went deep enough, and I thought it was just kind of like they wanted to whitewash everything, right? From the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, focused on 144 incidents, sightings dating back to 2004. So I want you to know that these incidents were similar ones were also reported going all the way back to the 1940s, the 1930s, even before that. Similar incidences. These were the 144 incidents mainly our military picked up, and there was evidence of it in actual like satellite imagery that they could pick up in radar. So that go back to 2004. The report declined, however, to draw inferences, saying that the available reporting was largely inconclusive, and noting that limited and inconsistent data created a challenge on evaluating the phenomena. But it said most of the phenomena reported do represent physical objects. Guys, if there is stuff in our skies flying around our nuclear facilities and around our naval warships and our F-18 Hornets, and they are moving 700 to 900 Gs, we better hell know what's going on in our skies. We don't know if it's from another planet. We don't know if it's from another universe. I don't know. We don't know. We just don't know, because our technology doesn't have that kind of capability that we know of. And I've been talking to lots of folks, and go back and listen to some of the podcasts with Lou Elizondo, with Nick Pope. You're going to be stunned at what they say to you. I mean, you're going to get a better idea of this, right? But now we know we're going to have these hearings. I'm going to keep you posted on these hearings. I'm going to be bringing experts on to discuss this. Hopefully we'll bring Lou back on as well to talk about this. And let's see if we can get some of those senators on the show as well to talk about what could possibly be happening. Why is this such a critical juncture in our time of humanity, why we need to understand this, and could this pose a real threat to our safety and to our world. Again, thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. I love having this moment to talk with you. It's just great. I loved having Congressman Andy Biggs on the show. I hope to bring him back on. He's a great American, a great patriot, and he's a great warrior for life. For all those babies out there, we are fighting for you, even though you don't know it. God bless our country. God bless our great nation and help us heal, because you guys, we really need all the prayers we can out there. Let's all stick together. Let's all be kind to one another. And I'll see you real soon next week. This is Sara Carter with The Sara Carter Show. Go to my website, saraacarter.com, saraacarter.com, where you get all my links and you can sign up for our email list. See you Thursday.
We know it's hard to keep up with all the news these days, but don't worry, because we're here to talk and laugh about it all. The White House Correspondents' Dinner happened, and it was a complete joke. Biden is failing, and there's polls to prove it, and there is now a truth minister. Hey, it's the Chicks here from the Chicks on the Right podcast. Download and subscribe to our daily podcast to hear us pick apart and pick on the news of the day. Politics to pop culture, nobody's safe, but it's all fun. Subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.